So this is going to be a brand new Don't Starve Together server, solo. I'll be playing on this one by myself to be able to showcase better exactly techniques and things like that. Whereas when I'm playing with other people, most of the chat is involved with interacting with friends. This will be a bit less hectic than the stream the other night for DST if you watched any of that, but it'll also be more focused. So you'll be able to see the entire process of starting a new server. I think I'll have to delete an old one. We'll use this one. Can't remember the last time I actually played on it. Cooperative, friends only, endless. Set it to endless just for convenience. I'm not a hardcore player or anything like that. It's more about exploration and world building than, just trying to not get my ass handed to me. Occasionally things are gonna happen where shit goes south. PvP doesn't matter. I should be the only person on the server. Alright, for these settings, I don't really mess with anything. A couple of exceptions, I turn up a few things. World regrowth, want that things to regrow as fast as humanly possible. Doop-a-doo, meteor shower frequency to lots. But you don't want to adjust meteor fields, because then you're going to start having rocks fall all over the damn place. It's super annoying. If I'm playing with other people, I'll turn carrots up some, just to have an early food supply for so many people. But by myself, it doesn't matter, and I'm not touching any of these. Like, I can deal with all the monsters, all the everything, it doesn't matter. Add caves, and I'm not going to mess with anything at all on caves. It'll be fine just with the default settings. If you're new, then there are certain things here that turning them off will make your life a lot simpler. Hound attacks are a really big headache for a lot of players. And with Hound Mounds in existence now, then it is completely possible to just turn that off and still farm Hound's Teeth and things from Hound Mounds if you're looking for a more casual experience. Likewise, Merm houses and Merms are super frustrating for a lot of players. They're really dangerous because they can always come in groups of 4. It makes them a little more difficult to fight than pigs and other mobs. And they're not really rewarding to fight. You just get a lot of meat for killing them, and meat can be pretty easily acquired other ways. So they just make swamp exploration more difficult. I don't recommend turning off anything else because everything else is useful somehow. Maybe not the antlion so much. Being able to get the lazy deserter is really useful if you're playing with multiple people, but that's also kind of a late game thing. But like the dragonfly is stationary. You don't have to worry about turning it off. Deerclops drops the Deerclops eyeball, which is super useful for a lot of different things. Moose geese are also fairly stationary, and Berger is your labor force. You'll see that eventually. Mactusks have really good drops. Tree guards have really good drops. Poison birch nuts could probably be turned off if you're looking for more of a casual experience without losing anything. If you turn off clockworks, you're going to find it very difficult to gather gears, etc., etc. Killer bees can probably be turned off if you're looking for something a little easier to play with. It's not that big a deal. You don't want to turn off beefalo mating frequency because that's how beefalo actually add to their herd numbers. And unless you're the kind of player who the first thing you do when you load in is slaughter all of the beefalo so you never have to worry about them again, then you probably want to have some resupply. Even if a beefalo herd gets down to 1 member, they can repopulate from that with their mating season. Yeah, all the rest of this is fine. All of this is fine. All of this is fine. Turning flowers up would make life a lot simpler for new players, because every time you pick a flower you gain 5 sanity, but they typically only regrow in the spring. So turning up the default numbers will also turn up how many repopulate in the spring. But frankly, for sanity management, I would turn up mushrooms before I turned up flowers. That would make it even easier. Blue caps and green caps are great for that. Frog rain, wildfires, and disease are all things I would turn off if I was setting something up for new players. Frog rain is the single most devastating random event that can occur. You have to take special measures to deal with it, and it's pretty common in the spring. For example, frogs will kill your entire herd of beefalo if you live near a herd of beefalo. They can kill the moose goose giant that spawns. They'll wipe out an entire pig village. It's just devastating. About the only thing that can deal with them pretty effectively is, like, I think the bee queen. Does she fight bee frogs? I don't remember. But past that, you're looking at like tooth traps and stuff. It's worse than any of the giants, actually. The only way to really deal with them is just to run away. They'll despawn eventually. And then disease, wildfires is bad in the summer for new players because they're not used to all the building things that you can do to prevent wildfires. Experienced players don't have much trouble with wildfires. A couple of ice fling-o-matics and you're good to go. And then disease is just frustrating in general. Of course, you can always do things like adjust the day cycle. Only day, only dusk, only night, etc. There's a lot of settings there, but default's fine. Starting season, autumn is probably best. If you want to have real challenge, set the starting season to summer. That's actually way worse than any other season. Winter, at least you can build torches and light things on fire to stay warm. In the summer, you don't have the easy stay and cool options. In caves content, nightmare fissures are a great source of nightmare fuel, but they're also extremely deadly if you're not prepared. Cave worm attacks are extremely deadly if you don't know how to kite them, and are another good thing that I would turn off. Cave worms also, unlike hounds, do not have good drops. The only thing that they are good for is building moggles, and you can find a random cave worm somewhere, kill just the one, get the light berry from it, and make your set of moggles with it. Once you've got one set, you can just refill them. You don't need to keep building more. Bats are really easy to kill. Same, clockworks are super useful. Monkeys are probably the second most deadly thing in the game, arguably the most deadly thing, because in the ruins, when they turn into shadow monkeys, they will chase you forever, and they will chase you in large numbers forever. And it's not easy to outrun them. You have to have a pretty significant speed boost. The rest of the caves monsters aren't that bad. Like, compared to Base Don't Starve, Slurpers are super easy to deal with. Base Don't Starve, I think you actually had to eat enough food to cause them to overload and pop. Whereas here you can just unequip them like you would any other hat. Turning up lichen would make things a bit easier in the cave. Lichen is an amazing food. It counts as a vegetable, so that makes it super easy to cook certain foods that require specifically vegetables, namely pierogi. The ingredients for pierogi, one of the best crock-pot recipes, are meat, egg, vegetable filler, and it is not easy to get vegetables once you run out of carrots on the surface. And all of this stuff's just pretty standard. There's nothing that really needs to be adjusted on that. Same thing here. You can turn up world regrowth if you really want. Earthquakes being off. Earthquakes aren't really that deadly. If you have any armor at all, then they should be fine. Alright, which brings us to mods. I use so many mods. 29, actually. Won't need that one on this server. at some point, if there's enough interest, I'll create a mod spotlight for some of these. The mods that I consider just absolutely essential. I'm leaving off some of the mods that are just beneficial to multiplayer, since I'll be by myself. There's no point in having more mods than I actually need. And if I could recommend any just quality of life mod in the game, it's easily wormhole markers. Just being able to see color-coded on your map where wormholes connect is super great. A lot of these are just quality of life. Picky is really good. It makes it so that grass, twigs, etc. all pick as easily as just picking up a loose item on the ground. It's a massive time saver. In that regard, it makes the game considerably easier because time is a resource just like anything else. But when you get to the mid and late game where harvesting your planted fields, you know, it's 50 plus twigs, 50 plus grass, 50 plus berry bushes. We're talking you can spend an entire day every 3 days harvesting. Picky cuts that down to a few minutes. A lot of this is just little stuff. Increased stack size is really nice. You know, inventory space is a resource. And being able to stack things, specifically in this case, up to 99, it makes it so that anything that stacks will stack up to 99. Or you can customize it to adjust it to, I don't know if it'll go higher, but it'll definitely go less. Just makes things a lot simpler. The main reason I use it is because when I go harvest wood, I go harvest a lot of wood. And logs only stacking up to, I think, 20, your inventory gets filled really fast. When they start stacking up to 99, it's much better. Extra equipment slots. I couldn't imagine playing this game without it. It adds an extra 2 extra spots, one for a dedicated backpack slot and one for a dedicated amulet spot. The amulet spot I don't use as much. Occasionally I'll have an amulet for something going around. Most of the really good amulets are late game, and as such you don't see them unless you're doing a ruins rush, where you're going into super late game content early. You usually won't head into ruins until probably the start of your second year, unless you're doing a ruins rush. In which case, if you're doing a ruins rush, you may do it in the first 2 or 3 days, depending on which character you're playing as. Basically as fast as you can secure light sources and food. Anyway, but having a dedicated backpack slot makes it a lot easier for characters who do a lot of fighting. Typically, if I'm playing on a multiplayer server, I am the person who does all the fighting. I've got a lot of experience kiting and things like that. And so just being able to keep my backpack on and keep a set of armor on is really nice. Inventory sort is another one I could not imagine playing without. All it does is it gives you a hotkey on your keyboard that sorts your inventory. And it'll shuffle all resource type items like twigs and things into your backpack, and all of your gear and stuff into your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 item slots. With a preference for putting torches in the front. And it just makes it really, really easy to keep everything neat and organized. It'll also stack things that are unstacked. So if you've got like 3 gold nuggets and 3 different slots in your backpack, it'll build them all into one 3-slot stack. It's actually not as good as the exact same mod in Base Don't Starve, where it would also organize chests, which is regrettable. That was an amazing mod. Cluster Pants, really nice too. It allows you to build 9x9, or excuse me, not 9x9, 3x3, which is 9 total plants, or 5x5 clusters of plantables like twigs, or saplings, pine cones, berry bushes, grass tufts, things of that nature, so that you can plant them in exact symmetrical clumps. It's really nice. Additional set pieces is a mod I play with all the time. It's what's going to add a lot of the crazy stuff you're going to see me interacting with that you may not have seen before. It's basically more unique encounter pieces that are custom created to make a more interesting experience. Now, the one thing I have to say that's kind of about this is, well, two things actually. One is there's a chance that it'll create a setup where there are hostile enemies immediately surrounding the portal when you first load into the game, and you will load in and die sometimes before you have control of your character. It's completely random whether it does that or not, and all you can do is, you know, respawn and try to do better or create a new server. The other thing is it actually extremely unbalances game balance. You may see me end up with 60 or 70 gears on day 3 or 4, which is not something that should be happening. You shouldn't be getting 60 or 70 gears at best until when you get into ruins, and maybe not even then. There's just not enough clockworks on the surface typically to be able to gather that many gears unless you just grind tumbleweeds in the desert forever. So, and there's a few other resources that it makes really easy to get, but that's one of the main ones. And auto catch just basically makes it so that boomerangs are actually viable as an item for new players. I never learned to use boomerangs properly because I've had a boomerang mod basically since I started playing. And it's really nice. It just means normally when you throw a boomerang, when it comes back to you, you've got to hit the button to catch it when it comes to you. If you don't, then it hits you as well, deals the small amount of boomerang damage to you, and lowers the boomerang's durability by an additional 1 use. All this does is change it so that you automatically catch it when it comes back. So with our 25 mods turned on, we're going to generate the world, which typically takes about 2 minutes, 3 minutes, something like that, because of all the different mods. Any mod that affects world gen, like additional set pieces, will dramatically slow down how fast you generate and load into a game. Note that all the mods that I just showed are server side only. They do not require your clients to have any of the mods. I also use a few client side mods, Where's My Beefalo being the biggest one, which just adds a lot more icons to the map when you open it. It's originally called Where's My Beefalo because when the game first started, the number one way to defend yourself against hounds was to live next to Beefalo. You just would build your base near them, and when hounds attacked, you would train the hounds onto the Beefalo, who would then murder them. Well, the mod was created so that players could open their map and easily find where the Beefalo were. It eventually evolved over time into just a more comprehensive map that shows basically everything you could want to see. And I think pretty much every serious Don't Starve player uses Where's My Beefalo. Wormhole markers is another one I think that pretty much everybody uses because it's really unintrusive. You know, map mods are really common among players. Other things, not so much. A lot of them, even the mods I use that don't change the game very much, make for an easier, less intense Don't Starve Together experience. For character selection, I typically play Wigfrid. I also typically play Wigfrid because I play with players who are less experienced at the game. Wigfrid is extremely efficient early. Starting off with weapons and armor means that she can take risks that otherwise you would not be able to take. And her natural built-in damage reduction and life steal when she attacks lets her manage her resources early really well for fighting. Playing on my own, I will be playing Wolfgang. I don't know. We'll play Wickerbottom. Yeah, we'll play Wickerbottom. Wolfgang's the best fighter. Extremely high HP, extremely high damage, kind of resource intense. but he just murders things. Wickerbottom is the objective best character in the game. She's not really statistically any worse than anyone else except for Wolfgang, and a little bit worse than Wigfrid. But she has a few unique advantages that are just ridiculously strong. Starting off with all science recipes pretty good. It means she can create things like a backpack and stuff right off the bat. Playing by myself, I don't need to build an alchemy engine. I can just build a science machine. But the big thing is she can create unique items that no one else can make in the form of books that have magical effects. Once she creates them, Maxwell can use them, but he has to have a Wickerbottom create them first. And the books are really strong. There's a book that causes plants nearby to grow very quickly, which is just great. You can use it to grow grass, grow twigs, grow trees, grow food, grow berries, just any kind of plant life. There's a book, Birds of the World, which summons a bunch of birds that you can then murder with boomerangs or what have you. Just all sorts of different things. But the main one late in the game is called On Tentacles, and it lets her spawn tentacles, and you can put them in places that let them do work for you. There are very few bosses that can deal with Wickerbottom just summoning a bunch of tentacles around where it spawns at. Namely, Berger and Dragonfly. Let's see. Clothing, button shirt. I've got a lot of clothes for this game, just over time. It's crazy. Some of the like high tier rare stuff for this game sells for a lot of money. Sweater vest, toga. I like toga. Shoes. I sold a backpack mod one time for over $8. You know what? No, let's random. Let's completely random our outfit. Let's go. So hopefully we don't load into a bad setup. All right, we didn't immediately die. So day one, the most important thing is that you keep moving, you gather enough stuff to make a torch, and other than that, you just want to collect everything you see that can be used. Now this is part of that additional set pieces. This is the hostile base, I think it's called, or something like that, where a group of Tiki Torch pigs have taken over a base from a previous survivor. So if I kill those Tiki Torch pigs, then there's a tent there, a fire pit, a chest with some different resources in it, etc., etc. Just a pre-built base that I can take over if I can get the stuff to help me murder those pigs. And this is another one of those additional set pieces. Just a cluster of 9 pig houses. There will probably be 2 of those somewhere on the map. So what we're doing here is just collecting the things we need to get ahead of the game and looking for somewhere to build our main base. Now, there's a lot of different places you can build a base. The simplest solution, especially for new players, is to build a base in the savannah near as many rabbit holes as possible. This gives you 2 things early. The first is a reliable food supply, in and of the fact that you'll have rabbits that you can catch to give you food, and a reliable defense mechanism in that you can use beefalo to keep yourself alive when hounds attack and things like that. Now this here is another set piece. It looks like a really nice pre-built base, and it might be exactly that. And it could also be trapped so that if I interact with pieces of it, it changes seasons on me. And I'm not really in a position right now where I can change seasons safely. I mean, I could survive. It would be manageable if it suddenly became winter or summer, but it's really more headache than it's worth for me to interact with those objects. Now, that said, when I do find a base location and I'm ready to start building, coming back there could be really useful because I could take a hammer, tear all of that down, get the resources from it, and be good to go. Now this, what's going on here? Oh, this is set piece 3 walrus camps. That'll be useful in the winter. A walrus camp in the winter spawns Mac Tusk, which is a little walrus guy who follows you around. He's got a blowgun. It's one of the few ranged enemies in the game. Very, very annoying. But he also has really good drops. The walrus tusk that he drops, about, I think, 25% of the time, lets you make the walking cane, which when you carry it as a hand item, increases your movement speed dramatically. 25%. It's pretty nice. And if you'll notice, I'm working on following the coast. You always want to follow the outline of the map to try to figure out where the landmass is. Plugged sinkholes lead to the caves biomes. You know, it'll connect to the separate cave server. If you do not have caves enabled, you'll get that little like X of rocky turf in places, but without the plugged sinkhole in the center. If you mine a plugged sinkhole, hold that thought. I don't have the rock needed for that, but I do have a backpack. And I see that Merm over there. I'm not gonna go fuck with him. One of the set piece things that'll occur from time to time. Oh, found a beefalo. Looks like just one, too. We'll probably kill him in a bit. There we go. I wanted a hammer, so I wanted the 3 rocks from that. Holy Jesus. They killed the beefalo. Oh, no, they killed the pigs. Right. This is a random thing that occurs sometimes. You'll have mer people that spawn just randomly out in the wild. Ugh. There. Yeah, and there will also be pigs nearby them. And so they'll end up fighting each other. Anyway, I want the hammer so I can come tear down these pig spikes. Pig spikes are a great resource early because it'll get you a lot of twigs. And pig skins. Anyway, these touchstones, if you die, you can respawn at them. Just take your ghost over and haunt it. If there's more than one player in the game, then each player can use each touchstone one time. Alright. Moving along. So I just want to kind of stay out of their aggro range if I can, because if they aggro me, they will chase me forever. Unless I kill them or can completely outrun them somehow. And I won't be able to outrun him unless I get on a road. I might have got away from him. Which is good. Alright, so I'm going to need a torch. If you're familiar with the game and you hear turkey noises out of nowhere, it means I've just tried to sort my inventory. Alright, now this is actually Merm's attached to... Oh boy, this set piece is fun, but I need to get away from it for a second. Okay. And you can hear the bullshit going on over here. It's like 20 merm houses surrounded by tentacles. So it's just a war zone. And what you can do is wait for it to finish the fighting. The tentacles will eventually kill all of the mer people. The first few times, anyway. Get some light going. More pig spikes. Swamps often have pig spikes in them. So yeah, now that it's daylight, we can go over there and I can show this off a little better. Yeah, just fish and tentacle spikes. And if you're not careful when you walk over there, you will die. Because there's dozens of tentacles. And they will stun lock you. Typically, you can pick up 2 items, and then you gotta run. That's assuming you get no lag. I'm trying to get over to that tentacle spike. Oh, I almost died. That's fine. It's not that big a deal. I can get my health back if I find some blue caps. I'm in a swamp. There should be blue caps. But now I've got a good weapon for fighting. This is stupid risky to do without armor. Oh, sweet. Another tentacle spike. Tentacle spikes have really high base damage for a weapon. This is investigate suspicious dirt pile. Which direction is it pointing? This one. So if you follow suspicious dirt piles, they eventually will lead you to a Koalefant. I usually don't follow them, but it's good to do so with any character, and especially Wigfrid, since she only eats meat. But it can be a bit hard to see them sometimes. Like right now, where's this one at? Did I follow it the right way? I'm 1 hit from death, by the way. Case in point. And so we're just going to go back to this touchstone over here. I will definitely not be able to continue following that Koalefant track. Oh, another tentacle spike. All of that food will just sit there. Where is that touchstone? Down here. There's a lot of fun things you can do with haunting. Haunting flowers has a chance to turn them into evil flowers. Haunting pigs has a chance to turn them into werepigs. Most things, if you haunt them, it has a chance to set them on fire. The downside of that is that's going to cut all of my stats, health, hunger, and sanity in half. So I just lost a pretty big chunk of sanity from that. And that's any method you use when you die and respawn. It's always good to go through wormholes at least once when you find them so you can just get them marked on your map. Especially with, and you can see now I'm crazy enough that all the rabbits have turned into beardlings. That happens when your sanity drops below a certain percent. Now, the effects of sanity and insanity are based on percentages for the most part. The exception is whether shadow creatures will attack you or not. Shadow creatures will only attack you if you're below 40 flat sanity. And Terror Week, and I'm going to die again. Oh my lord. I stopped to check my map, and there was a tentacle there. Sloppy play. This is fine. Wander our happy butts back to the portal, and we can respawn there. I should probably stop, chop down some trees, and get myself some log armor going. Haunting any creature causes it to act confused for a few seconds. Doesn't really have any effect other than that. It does cause things that are chasing players or even other monsters to de-aggro them, however, and can be useful if you're playing with friends and they're being chased by something terrifying. Haunting tiki torches actually can be potentially very useful. If the tiki torch pig is dead, the guardian pig, and you haunt a tiki torch, then it will respawn a pig instantly, which makes it really easy to farm them if you've got two players working together. Okay. Just gonna grab some wood real quick. Holding down space lets you automatically act, but if you also click while you're doing it, then you act much quicker. Alright, so need to make a rope. I believe I need 2 ropes. Yeah. There we go. And that'll present some just dumb things happening. I should have done that far sooner. I'm used to playing Wigfrid where you start off with a helmet that protects you. One thing you may have noticed is I'm not doing a lot of chopping trees or mining or anything like that. Whoa, shit. See, case in point right there. Merman just come up on me out of nowhere, did 6 damage instead of the 25 that he would normally do, because log armors have 80% damage reduction. You can see my log armor lost 8% of its durability there. Armor stats are pretty interesting how they work. They reduce your HP, or the damage you take to your HP by a certain percentage. In the case of log armor, it's 80%. The 80% that they block is reduced from the armor's durability, which I believe log armor has 800 durability. Could be wrong about that. So when it reduced my damage taken from 25 to 8, or to 6, then, hold on. Okay, my torch burned out. This is a different set of tracks, by the way. The others despawned while I was dead. But we can follow them too. Qualified tracks spawn fairly frequently. So in a swamp, anytime you're going to open your map or anything like that, You just stop moving for a second and watch what's going on around you to be able to see if there's going to be any tentacles pop up around you. And I can't find the next piece of track in that koalefant thing, and I'm just not going to mess with it. Don't have time really to stop and play with koalefants. Yeah, there you can see where it despawned. Okay. Oh man, I've not seen this set piece in a long time. This is called the 100 reed trap. And it looks cool because there's a bunch of reeds there. But just watch this. Let's see, WASD. I typically move with the mouse, but I'm going to use WASD for this. Just so you can see. Oh, did I pick a good line on that actually? Yeah, anyway, I was hoping it would showcase it a little better. But yeah, this thing is completely surrounded by tentacles. It's a trap. And it's a really good resource if you manage to take out all of the tentacles. And this chest is the same thing. It's surrounded by tentacles. You can open it though. Standing right next to it is safe. But when you do, you're going to lose some sanity. And I got an axe and a bush hat blueprint. Reading blueprints give you 25 sanity back. Usually there's more stuff in it than there was that time. Usually it's got 5 or 6 blueprints in it. During the day, mer people stay inside their houses. They won't come out till it's evening unless you interact with them somehow. Either by tearing down their houses or... That's a lucky find. Okay, let's do some inventory sorting. I just want to do a little cooking. Thank you, Tentacle, for fucking the fuck off forever. I don't care about the spear, but I do want the beefalo hat and wool. And the hound's teeth. YOLO. Alright. Let's get out of here. Spider glands and spider silk could be really useful. Excuse me. What goes on over here? Another cluster of pick houses. Oh no, that's really nice. Comes out right next to the Pig King. So the Pig King's pretty cool. Let me show you what's up with this. I need a log. Alright, let's go find a log. Should be a deciduous forest right here. And a bunch of mushrooms. Sweet. Alright, I'm gonna just come up here and build a campfire real quick. cook all this meat off. So meat spoils faster if it's raw, and vegetables spoil faster if they're cooked. So you always want to cook your meat when you're carrying it around, and you want to leave your veggies raw. Pretty much every food, though, will give you more stats benefit from it if it's cooked. So for veggies, if you're going to eat them without putting them in a crock pot, you'll just want to wait and cook them right before you eat them if you can. Alright, so yeah. Pig King, you can feed him meat. He doesn't care about small meats, but you can give him big meats, and he gives you gold. You can also give him eggs, and he will give you gold. So this is a meteor shower. Apparently the pig village here is near a meteor field, which means there's probably a rocky terrain nearby. Alright, I kind of want these boot caps right. Torch. I'm gonna drop this other axe for now. And plant the pine cones. Blue caps. Deciduous forests typically have a lot of mushrooms in them. I don't know why the blue caps weren't showing up on my map. So this is a winter protection touchstone. You can use that, and the chest inside will have wood and grass and twigs and things. Tiki Torch Pig, Mini Fortress. Okay, here's some more mushrooms. I'll come get those later. So eating blue mushrooms raw, watch my sanity and my health. Sanity down, health up. They're a very good healing resource. It's one of Wigfrid's biggest disadvantages. She can't eat mushrooms. And that means she has no access to the best healing food in the game. Now, your sanity being low is bad occasionally, but most of the time it's actually pretty beneficial. Shadow creatures let you get nightmare fuel. Actually, you know what? I've got a lot of meat, and days are pretty long right now. This would be a good time to do some wood harvesting. So by feeding pigs meat of any kind, they will be, not Tiki Torch pigs, regular pigs from pig houses. They will follow you around and help you do things. Come up here where there's a bunch of pigs. Yeah. So if you feed them too many monster meat, they'll turn into werepigs, which I would showcase if I had more monster meat, but I really don't. So the ideal number before you start getting into problems where they're just kind of overlapping each other is about 4 pigs. And so if you chop down trees, they chop down trees. And you only have to chop about 1 time, and then they'll do the rest, just to kind of give them the idea. But standing nearby pigs quickly regens your sanity. The best way to do this is to constantly be chopping, and don't worry about picking things up until after the pigs go home for the day. You want to get as much time out of them as you possibly can. The amount of time they stay with you depends on how much meat you feed them. The more meat you give them, the longer they'll stay. Up to 2 in-game days. And they'll stay longer than that if you continue to feed them meat as they lose interest. they'll start making little hungry noises and rub their bellies when they get hungry. But the only thing downside is during nights and dusk, they'll head. They just lose their minds. Basically, you'll see here in a second. They hate being out in the dark, but they won't go home until, you know, their hunger completely depletes. So they just run around like chickens with their heads cut off, unless you provide a light source for them. If you provide a light source for them, they'll stay near it, be it a campfire or what have you. See, again, there they go. So I'm just going to let them run around like crazy and harvest all of this. You know, everything's picked or chopped, so I can just grab it off the ground. I have a mod on Pig Manners that stops pigs from eating food off the ground, so they won't touch my birch nuts. That actually messes up elite game strategy though, and I don't recommend it if you're planning on using the strategy where you create an enclosure and leave food inside it to attract pigs. But it does make this part of the early game much easier. So you can see I'm already butting into inventory issues. If I had to destack this 4 stacks of wood, that would make it even worse. Awesome. Glommer statue won't matter till the full moon. I'm picking green caps because they restore or cost a lot of sanity. I'm not really ready to go crazy yet. Emphasis on the yet. Yeah, here's my rocky field. I knew there'd be one around here somewhere. So there's 3 kinds of rocks that appear on the surface. One kind only appears when meteors drop them. I guess actually there's 4 kinds, right? And one kind only appears when meteors drop them, because the other kind will pop up in deserts. But you can pretty clearly see which ones are gold rocks, because they have little veins of yellow in them. And unless you specifically need niter for something, you don't really want to bother with any of the other rocks. Gold rocks are obviously the only ones that contain gold, which is an extremely useful early game resource. Almost everything you'll want to build needs gold. But niter is not useful typically until around the time you're getting into your first summer, when you start needing endothermic fires to stay cool. Okay, let's see. Lumpy pines are similar to regular pine trees, except they don't produce pine cones. As a result, I personally feel like the best use for lumpy pine trees is to set them on fire and turn them into charcoal. Another one of the suspicious marbles is over here. I need to remember that for later. Alright, so... that pig must have had his house get broken by one of the meteors that's falling over in the village. Ooh, 2 gold nuggets from that rock. Oh no, that could be one of my pigs. I still might have a few that are following me around. Okay, what do we got going on? Oh, I forgot to go get the blue caps. Rip. Oh well. That's fine. Lots of flowers, huh? I bet there's beehives near here. Yeah, that's what I thought. This is the bee queen beehive. There will be 2 killer beehives around here somewhere. Huh. Yeah, here we go. I was hoping that maybe the pigs would attack them. No luck. Anyway, the bee queen beehive will just sit there peacefully unless you interact with it. Oh, I lost my hammer. Sad. If you hammer on it a few times, and just a couple of times, then nothing happens. It can drop some honeycomb, you know, things like that. But if you hammer on it repeatedly, it'll eventually summon the Bee Queen boss. And I am certainly not ready to fight that fight right now. Well, let's see where this goes. Rip my sanity. Hey, what do you know? Exactly where I wanted it to go. So this is our home now. Okay, so one of the set pieces I use, or the mods I use, the additional set piece mod, generates this. This is a Mactusk City. It is extremely dangerous because every one of those camps will create a Mactusk and 2 Ice Hounds and a baby Mac. And so there's 20 to 30 here. We don't want to mess with this. But I do want to build a base in the desert, just not near this. The main reason for building a base in the desert is the fact that cacti are one of the few resources that I certainly didn't mean to grab that. You never eat uncooked cactus flesh. It's just suicide. Anyway, cacti and tumbleweeds are resources that you can't just get anywhere else. Jeez. I am getting lucky. I need to find somewhere to set a base up so I can drop all this crap. Tumbleweeds. There are 2 different deserts. You can tell which is which by the kind of cacti that you find in it. Wait, I want to eat those butterfly wings. Butterfly wings heal you for a small amount of HP. Some of the things I'm finding now are specifically useful for taking to the Pig King and dropping off to give him gold. I can actually just drop them through the wormhole. Yeah, you can use wormholes to send objects to the other side. I can pick them up when I go back over there. So what I'm trying to find now is the location of the dragonfly. This is the dragonfly desert, and you can tell because it has the little short, stumpy barrel cactuses. And the tumbleweeds. You only find tumbleweeds in the dragonfly desert. I don't want to build a base too close to the dragonfly, but I want to build it fairly close to that wormhole. So I need to know... Ooh, got a gear. That's really useful. Okay, so my phone just timed out again. That tells me that it's been an hour, and so we're going to take the server down, put the server right back up, play for probably another hour, but I want to chop this into 1-hour segments to upload to YouTube. So, Alt-Tab, take the stream off. I'll be right back.